Hello, everybody. Making sure everything's all right. That looks good. And here we are. Here we are. That's okay here. It's okay here. So we've got a few things we're going to talk about today, including some medium wave DX tests tonight. That'll be interesting. I'll take the tablet here. Make sure that I'm not missing out on anybody. Apparently I'm live. Okay, so I'm going to keep this close. There's a pirate on 9510 right now. Chill. 9510 upper sideband. It's very weak here. Very weak here, but kind of hear it somewhat in the noise. 9510 upper sideband, which is very unusual. So here we go. Welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave live show. We are here twice a week to talk about radio, shortwave radio, all sorts of radio in general. And of course, my name is Gilles, located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. We tune the bands, answer questions, have all sorts of things that we just go across and talk. And we have a little announcement for upcoming DX tests that are actually going to happen on the medium wave AM band tonight from 2 stations in Kentucky. So this is going to be a challenge. They're not super powerful, but it's going to be fun to try anyways. And, you know, there's online Kiwi SDRs for that. And we're going to talk about it in a short while. So we are here twice a week with a show about radio, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 20 hours Universal Time. And on Wednesday for North America, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's Thursday UTC, 0 hours UTC. So it's Thursday for a big part of the world at 0 UTC. And we talk about radio and have fun and tune the bands and answer questions and go with the flow, go with what's happening with the chat room, what people have to say. And it's always nice to have these shows and just have fun talking about radio in general on this channel. So welcome aboard, everyone, and hope that you'll enjoy our show today as usual. So there's a chat room where you can join, and people are great and fun and marvelous people on the chat room. And they are here to answer questions. They are here to chat with you. They are super friendly. And that means even if you're new to the hobby, you're at the best place in the world, I think, for that, because we welcome you here. We're not, pretentious. We don't poo-poo anyone. Whatever you got, whatever you have. Maybe you're looking for a radio for the first time in your life. Maybe you got a $20 radio. Maybe you got a $10,000 radio. Everybody's welcome. Doesn't matter what you have. What is important here is that you listen to the radio, because that's the purpose of all of this. And have fun. And that's the basics of it. Just have fun. Once this is over, there's the after party, as some call it. the Facebook group, which is more than around 2,500 members right now. Facebook group is there to continue where we left off. People can continue posting what they're listening to, radios they're buying, radios they want to buy, and post questions, answer questions, show their radios, their shacks, videos of what they're receiving. Lots of fun once again, and it's like continuation. At least when you're here, people are want to actually be part of something after all of this is over. Well, you're not alone. There's the Facebook group for that. So if you're on Facebook, just ask for the Facebook to be on the group. It's a private group, and it is official SWL channel, like the YouTube channel here. You need to answer all the questions, or else you're not going to get into the group. And if your profile is brand new, we're not going to approve you. So unless we know who you are and can verify who you are, profiles that are less than a few weeks old are not going to be accepted unless we know. So there's you can write to officialshortwaveradio@gmail.com. Let me know, look, I'm going to ask for membership. I'm this guy in the chat room, or this guy, me. I just created a new Facebook profile just because I wanted to be in the group. And it happens from time to time that people create a profile just for that. And so if we know in advance, then it's fine. We're going to accept you in. It's a way to prevent trolling. And I think we're pretty successful. The group is a very nice group, very quiet group. And if you just aren't, if you just aren't, good for the group, if you're not the type of person that can respect others, then you have no place there. And we actually there's no three chances on that group. It's you're out and that's it, and you're never coming back. There's just better be a good Facebook citizen, and there's no reason to be bad. That's all. I enjoy radio. That's what we do, and there's nothing about being negative. One of the things, and I hope you guys listen, particularly. I hope you guys listen every week to the International Radio Report show on CKUT 90.3 FM and our International Radio Report YouTube page, and also Facebook group, because there's an International Radio Report Facebook group. Because tomorrow's show is going to be an interesting discussion, and I think it's going to get a lot of people at heart. It has to do with a posting in Radio World this week. I didn't talk about it Wednesday, but it has to do with a posting from Dan Robinson and Keith Perron that are kind of negative about, they say the title is like, the revival of shortwave is a no-go, and it's a no-show. It's not happening, and it's not worth happening, and people don't have radios and don't listen. Which I find extremely negative, without any verification, any way of no numbers, no stats of anything, no. It's just out of the blue. Well, no one has radios, and like Keith Perron saying that there are no more than 200 or 300 shortwave listeners in North America. Come on, or in the United States. Come on, okay. I think my statistics on my channel here prove that there's more people than that have a radio with shortwave. And there's some old statistics on the WRMI webpage. They're about 20 years old, but still 20 years ago isn't that far away. It's not the 70s or the 80s. Some of the stats seem to say that a lot of European countries, people that have radio, a lot of them have shortwave radios. It's not because you don't know if your neighbor has a shortwave radio that he doesn't have a shortwave radio. That's the thing here. And, they just jump on the why spend money on shortwave. And it's a negative comment. And I hate it for its negativity. They're entitled to have their opinion. It's fine. But What I don't like is, so what? If there is more shortwave broadcasts because of the Russian war with Ukraine, why not? There's nothing bad about it. Why being so negative about having broadcasts? And I think that there's a lot of things that are, there's no revival is not a word I would use. I think what we are living through right now is there's an increase in shortwave broadcast because of the Ukrainian war. Some stations got up to the plate and said, "Yep, we're going to increase shortwave," including the BBC. I think it shows that these stations think people are listening, and there are people out there listening. Once, it's obvious that once things quiet down, I think shortwave broadcast will kind of throttle back to what it was. But I think it's a wake up call. I think what it will achieve is a understanding that you know what, maybe we should keep a shortwave outlet, or at least a possibility of having shortwave outlets. Because when all things go bad, and the Western media isn't being going into Russia and so on, that means that the only way you can actually send something to Russia is via shortwave radio. And I don't agree that there's no shortwave radios out there. There's definitely a lot, and a lot more than people think. They might not have been used on shortwave much in the last years, but I think some people have shortwave radios that even, they might have had it in a garage, the attic, whatever, and they might be tempted to, take it out, and it's like, oh, well, you know what? Maybe there's something out there to help me during these times. But anyways, it's definitely um, has it definitely has sparked a debate on shortwave radio, and it's very interesting. And tomorrow our show's devoted, our 30 minutes of international radio report is devoted to that. So listen in. You can stream it via the CKUT page, ckut.ca. It's from 14:30 to 15 UTC, 30 minutes. You can, of course, also listen to the archive that's posted usually on Monday. You can, about an hour after the show will have aired on the station, it will be available through youtube.com/international radio report. And of course, this is going to be an interesting show to check out. You can stream also live if you want to have it live while it's playing here in Montreal and CKUT. You can stream it with your favorite streaming app. Just search for CKUT 90.3 FM Montreal. I think it sparked, and it touched part of who we are. And like I said, everybody's entitled to his opinion. That's fine. But I find the negativity to be a little sad. And I just want to add, if broadcasters want to add hours of broadcasting towards these areas, it can't hurt. What does it matter that they do it? Why does it matter that to you that, oh, well, they're wasting their money? It doesn't matter to you. That's your opinion. My opinion is I don't think they are. I think they know there's more of an audience than we might, these people might think. There's no real way to have real numbers, obviously, but I was looking at the stats on my channel. 35,000 subscribers. 42% of them are from the United States. That already is more than 200 or 300 shortwave listeners. That is thousands of listeners. That is showing that the numbers used actually in that discussion are out of the blue and totally wrong. And I think we could see it with just the stats of my channel of who comes here. Who comes here? People that like radio, obviously, because there's nothing else. And I don't talk about much more than radio. You come here because you want to hear about radio and you want me to talk about it. And so I think we have numbers that are showing that there are some interest in radio in general, shortwave radio and all of that. And 200-300 people in the US that listen to shortwave. Nah, I don't agree with that. So anyways, listen to the International Radio Report. We bring up some interesting points and talk about that discussion. And it's been wild on the IO group of Glenn Hauser's IO group, where it's been a big debate. And a lot of people don't agree with actually that Radio World discussion on shortwave. And so it's interesting. Hope that you listen in. And once again, if you don't listen live, you can go to youtube.com/International Radio Report. It's a show about radio, 30 minutes every week. So tune in and subscribe to the channel. You'll be able to get notifications every Sunday when the show is posted. And we have special shows from time to time that are actually posted also. So check for that. Okay. Let me get my voice. Let me get my first sip of my vodka cranberry juice. Take care. Cheers, everybody. Jay Waterston 69, nice to have you on board. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana. VA3JPX. Hey, James, nice to have you here from Ottawa. Dwayne in Bristol, Tennessee. Rob, nice to have you here in Phoenix, Arizona. David, KJ4CMY from sunny central Georgia. Robert Cross, nice to have you on board. Listening to China on the 6090. That probably just left the air before 20 UTC. Andrew Simpson, nice to have you on board. Chuck, nice to have you here from N5 KVO in South Texas, sunny and 83. Robert Cross, can anyone pick up 6144? I would guess it's 6140, maybe. Jim, KN6BRK from California, nice to have you here. Nick Sharp, nice to have you on board. Anyone heard the Russian lady? Seems to be off air for the past month or so. The Russian lady or the Cuban lady? Out of curiosity. What else do we have? We have Rufus from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Chuck from Pennsylvania. David Exeter, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. What else do we have? Patrick from Washington. Nice to have you here. Larry Gilmore. Nice to have you on board. And says, everybody chill. I'll be listening to the podcast, but won't be doing any tuning. Bad thunder and lightning. So take care, my friend. Tristan. Nice to have you here from Newfoundland. Dandy spring day. Here it's a grayish, not that cold, but grayish day, kind of. One of those, spring days. That's just like, you want to just listen to the radio inside. Richard Califano, nice to have you here from Albany, New York. WA2157 SWL. DJW883, nice to have you on board from sunny Southeast Pennsylvania. JJH from partly sunny skies, Western Lake Michigan. We have Paul Steckler, nice to have you on board. 59210. The Russian lady told me to say that. Okay. F7I Brubert, nice to have you on board from rural Virginia, working on some projects. Pretty cool. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here from Missouri. Late today watching my cat outside. Aha. Not bad. Roger Gray, nice to have you here from Northwest England. Fast load. Nice to have you on board. Yes, my firewall. It's an outside firewall. There's the mountains in the background. Nice to have you here from Montreal. Fast load. Zen Pharaohs, nice to have you here with the RSP Duo and Antenna Collective. Cool. Greg, nice to have you on board from a sunny, cloudy, snowy, and rainy Columbus, Ohio, which seems to be like Montreal some days. Gary 24 fan, nice to have you here from Maine. We have Zen Pharaohs 9510 carrier only, north of New York City. Yeah, it's very, very weak here. Christian Marcoux, salut. J'espère que ça va bien. Nice to have you here from North Bay, Ontario. TFP Taloa Fishing. Nice to have you here from Mississippi, South Mississippi. K5ASL. Ururkeda. Nice to have you here from Dublin. Richard's having coffee. That's cool. Shortwave coffee, like that. We have Jess. Nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. WU3D. Don. We have Jet Crafter. Nice to have you here from rainy Maine afternoon. Eduardo, ¿cómo está, mi amigo? Welcome aboard from Argentina. What else do we have? Robert Cross, we don't have a group chat on the Facebook Messenger. It's really just a Facebook page, and there you can just post what you're listening to and so on. People will comment, and it's a pretty active group. Just search for official SWL channel on Facebook. Dr. Sisab, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Yes, this is a Shure SM58 microphone, indeed. Carl Icon, nice to have you here. Radio Exterior de España, 17855, coming in good most of today in New York. Pretty cool. Cyberflyer 1, nice to have you here. J Projects in San Diego, California. What else do we have? Dr. Sisop, thanks to China Shortwave coming alive again, and the only one making the radios today. Yeah, pretty much. RJDA Dakota, a lot of what you've been hearing is their negative propaganda. This is something some people don't want to know about. Jim Gordon, nice to have you here. Greece is still alive and well, Jim, but they have a short schedule now. They stop at 17 UTC, and apparently that is until the decision, the final official decision of will they stay on shortwave or not on May the 31st. So they are still on, but they stop really early at 17 UTC instead of having their full schedule like they had before with our North American evenings where we could hear them all the time. Which is kind of sad because I think a lot of people in North America are missing now on the Voice of Greece. So the only way to really hear them is to use a QESDR. Neil in Nottingham, UK. RJ Diakotas is indeed a wake-up call. Only way to get information into some places is shortwave. Absolutely. David KJ4CMY says most HF ham radios have general coverage receivers. Many others have shortwave radios, but may have just recently discovered that shortwave is. Sunwave. Hi, it's a shortwave time. Yes, it is. Jim Gordon, golden oldies on the buzzer on 4625. I like that. Oh, man. Dr. Sisab, shortwave radio, the only way to get uncensored info into Ukraine war, plus many other things. Yep. Nukes Boxen, I have 3 adult sons, and since the war started, I've had 2 of them tell me they think internet is not the answer and notice the value of radio. Yeah, because that's where, when you get censorship, when you get the internet, kind of unplugged, the internet is pretty fragile, honestly. It can easily be removed or censored. And that's what's happening in Russia. Even Russia needs news. They are the ones going at war with Ukraine. Ukrainians need news, definitely. But the thing is Russia and Russians also need shortwave, because what they're being told versus what is the official real news is different. And shortwave brings that, news that maybe Russians are missing right now. I'm going to give you guys a great example why shortwave is important. So here in Canada, we had a budget. The Liberal government put a budget, and in that budget they increased the spending of military for Canada. The official wording, the official phrase that the Prime Minister used is that by making the spending at the level that they now have it, we are reaching the goal of NATO membership spending. A couple of hours later, I'm listening to the BBC, and I hear the BBC talk about the Canadian budget. And the BBC commentary is that the up in spending of Canada is still not at par with what NATO membership wants. So just that gives you an idea of how having different sources of news is interesting, because you get your own government saying what is maybe a little white lie, and God, there's a lot of that going on in politics, versus the news service of another country, the BBC, saying, well, yeah, they have added billions into the budget, but that's still not enough for what NATO membership requires for Canada. So it's like, yeah, it's not. According to them, it's not. So that means it's probably not. And he's probably saying what he wants us to hear or something. Or, it's a great example. And I just started laughing when I heard the BBC talk about it. I said, thank God for radio, BBC, and all of that. Oh, man. Stephen, nice to have you here. M0, M00GUP. J Projects, RFE did a C-SPAN interview recently pursuing VPNs in addition to shortwave. Dr. Sisop, Brother Stare, reruns, waste of money. Yeah. Well, Andy New, nice to have you here. Nice to have you on board, M0CUN. Hector Vasquez, nice to have you here from Los Angeles. Just ordered the Texan 990X from Amazon, getting it tomorrow. Do you know where I can order the cable to add an external antenna? If you're talking to add it to an MLA30 or something like that, you have eBay or Amazon. I believe I've seen it also. You got to ask for a SMA female to 3.5 millimeter connector. I don't know if somebody could you could post a link of where some of you might have purchased it. Sunwave, there are far more shortwave listeners that listen, but we won't see them in public outlets such as YouTube and Discord, for example, the silent ones. It's what I was saying. One of the things I was saying is look at mailbag shows. I've noticed that so many times. When you listen to a mailbag show from a shortwave broadcaster, notice it's always the same people, always the same guys, and always the same names we hear all the time. Man, my ear hurts. So it would lead you to believe that there's just these people listening in. But in reality, and that's always been the case on shortwave, even in the glory days of shortwave, we would hear all the same names all the time. I mean, in 80s, you would have heard my name everywhere all the time. It's just that it's a very small percentage that actually take the time to do it and write in. But there's a lot more people listening in. So, what else? Robert Cross buying another Sony radio, the Shortwave 2001D. Nick Sharp, how many live subscribers from the UK, please? I would have to look at the statistics. If you guys want to have a little bit of statistics of the people that watch my channel and all of that, you know what? What I'm going to do, I'm going to take all of those numbers this week make a list and or make a little presentation showing you guys what are the countries that are listening the most to the channel here. And I mean, I looked. There are just in the past month in the views, I already see that there are more than 85 countries have watched at least a couple of videos on my channel. 85 countries. The other thing also that I've seen is that I already know that the top 3 countries watching the channel is number 1 is the United States, then it's the UK, then it's Canada, 4 is Germany, and 5 is France, I believe. So these are the top 5 countries watching my channel. But when you look at the list, there's a lot. The biggest country by far that watches my channel is the United States. Like I said, 42%. Then it drops off real fast. It's like 42% are US, and then it drops to like 18% the UK and 14% Canada, because the full scale is like tons of countries that have maybe 1% or 0.5% of viewers and viewing every month. WU3D uses is ICOM IC7300 for shortwave listening. Dr. Sisop, what we do now, the YouTube channel, what we do is we just, I just take a series of pictures, make like a kind of a presentation, like a PowerPoint if you want, during our commentary so that pictures change. But it's not, we don't record our show while we do it. We record the audio only, but don't record video of it. But we do have our show done via, usually it's via Skype. We've done it a few times with Zoom when Skype didn't work well, but most of the time it's Skype. Harold Anderson, nice to have you on board from Oslo, Norway, LB1NH. Carl Icon, not need stairs to people bankrolling the reruns. Yeah, it's money spent for I don't know. Marvin Mutz, nice to have you here from Red China, land of electronics. Skip N2EI, nice to have you here from New Jersey. Rick, nice to have you here from Milwaukee. Anthony France, nice to have you here from West Florida. Windy West Florida, 68, not bad. That's the kind of weather I like. Aaron, nice to have you here from Kentucky, KD9PTO. Mike, nice to have you here from Nashville. John Hummel Newell, VE5JHN, nice to have you here. Pika Killer, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Tom DXer, WP2QED from the Hudson Valley, New York. Seppo, nice to have you here from Finland. OH4MSJ, nice to have you here. G-Man, nice to have you here from Michigan. KU8P, Jeff Williams, nice to have you here from West Cornwall. We can say hi, but I don't believe I looked at the email. I'll look again just in case. But I have not had any news of anyone today via email for being here. So that's the it happens. Let me just do this. Keep this page down. Vojislav, nice to have you here from Belgrade, Serbia. Nice to have you on board. Barry, nice to have you here from Central Kentucky. Carl Icon, I see that there's a Malshite V4 now. Is there anything new on that unit other than stereo speakers? I don't know. I've not seen much of it, so I can't answer your question. Mike owns a ICOM ICR75. Its frequency range extends to 60 megahertz. Is there actually anything worth listening between 30 and 60? 30 and 60 megahertz is a VHF low range. Depending on where you live, there could be, first of all, some stuff there. There's still some law enforcement, some fire departments in the U.S. that haven't upgraded that do have still their transmissions in the 30 to 50 megahertz range. When solar activity gets very high, or when sporadic e-skip happens, you might have skip of all sorts of things during from 30 to 50 megahertz. And 50 to 54 is the 6 meter amateur radio band. Maybe you could focus there and see if you can hear some stuff. But there's definitely some things, but like I said, depending on where you live, it's quieter on some places than others. But when skip happens, you might be surprised. Tune regularly. And if you hear of people talking about e-skip, or just 10-meter band open, or the CB band being alive and well with tons of signals, start tuning above 30 megahertz. You might hear stuff in there. You might be surprised what you could hear actually. Others out of Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you on board. Have enjoyed seeing your Kenwood R5000 back in action. When I bought my ICOM, my R71A, went back and forth between Kenwood and ICOM. Great times for desktops. BNSF Watcher, nice to have you here from Vegas. Gerardo Rincon, nice to have you here, Gerardo. KE8RRG in Michigan. Al H, nice to have you here from warm Westport, Massachusetts. Glenn Robinson, nice to have you here from Charleston, South Carolina. VT Radio, nice to have you here from Northern Vermont. We have Richard. Where would you know where to connect an antenna on an old Zenith floor model? That, you know what? Go and look at pictures of it and see what you can get out of the pictures if you don't find manuals. And look at any wires in the back. Some of them have screws. I don't know about that specific model. Some of them already have a wire hanging out of the back. So I don't know. I don't know. It depends on the model. Jim, yep. Just to let you know that Greece is still on shortwave, but it's just on a very small schedule now. Dr. Sisab Jammer just started again, 93.95. Yeah. Figures. Doug Smith from Virginia Beach. Nice to have you here. Catalin, nice to have you here from Germany. What else do we have? Let me just go down here. Continue. Try to catch up. We have John. Nice to have you here from Norway. Good evening. Summertime and you on Friday. Best regards from West Norway, or on Saturday, you mean. We have common border with USSR up northeast. Some Russian families living there received refugee. So nice to have you here from Norway. Glenn Robinson, yeah, Pravda is lying to all of the Russians. Elizabeth, nice to have you here from Alaska. We have yeah, Nanco is a better place, but if it's a 990X, it's probably got the latest. What's scary of buying the non-X version out of Anonco is knowing if you got the latest version. David in Barcelona, Spain. ¿Cómo está mi amigo? EA3IEK, EA44998URE. Davey Ostrowski, nice to have you on board. Says, hey, I'm 14%. Regulus, nice to have you here. Please excuse the question. I already answered it. How do you like the ATS-25? I like it for what it is. It's kind of a cute radio, and it's a cute novelty, the way it is. I would not tell someone to buy that as a radio. It's more of, you want to have something unusual to play with. Yeah, why not? It's kind of fun. But it works well. It's sensitive and works well for what it is. The only thing that I have seen from a lot of people is, depending on the firmware you got and depending on where you bought it, Some seem to have problems with different things. I've seen a lot of report that their encoder, the tuning is reversed, so which is kind of weird. I've seen some people say they've had some issues, so there could be a quality control issue on it. So maybe be careful where you buy it, and buy it from some place where it's easy to return, maybe. Jim Gordon, and ordering step down power wall wart for my vintage Panasonic RF 2200. Renews power from the UK's 240 to 120 AC. Oh, it's a North American model. You know, something that we take for granted today a lot. Back in the 70s, 80s, you had to buy specific hardware or radios that were made either for Europe or North America. Only higher end receivers sometimes had a little switch, but today, I mean, the power supplies we have all have kind of a detection circuit. They already know what to do. Finlay, nice to have you here from Glasgow. Joseph Richards, nice to have you here from South Portland, Maine. Skipwave DX, nice to have you here from New York. The Catskill Mountains of New York. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here from the extremely windy Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. We have Finlay. I ordered one of those ATS-20 radios today. I hope they're good. The ATS-20, maybe with a later firmware. The original one crashes all the time. But it's a question of just having fun. Dr. Sisop says school buses here on 33 and 34 megahertz. Richard says we have a lot of fire departments still on the scanner in Albany, New York. Catalin, I noticed that the radio unit from Mercedes cars have shortwave. Is that a good sign, even though no visible antenna? Must be only the ones in Europe, because here in North America, I don't think anyone can find a car with shortwave on it, honestly. So I don't know. Francis Moore, nice to have you here from the UK. Tosin Loaf from Alabama, nice to have you here. Robert Cross, were you impressed when you seen all my vintage radios? It's always impressive to see all the good old radios and all the stuff that people have. We all have, and people all have these collections of radios, and it's pretty cool. But yep, it's pretty nice. Sunwave says 9940 kilohertz, WTWW oldies music. TV Ostrowski, Medicine Hat, Alberta, who's with you. What else do we have? The antenna jack on the ATS-20 is a BNC, which was very popular on scanner radios for a long time. Dr. Sisop says Amazon is like eBay, not selling latest firmwares. Yeah, well, a lot of what I've noticed on Amazon on radios particularly, and it's probably the same for a lot of things, there's a lot of eBay sellers that are also Amazon sellers. And so what you buy it from that same guy on eBay that might not have the latest, greatest, and a lot of sellers from China. Jet Crafters 13650, Radio Romania International booming in. Let's try that just out of curiosity. I've got actually the ICOM here, the ICOM ICR 8500 on the audio of the console.
She'll now be speaking about those exhibitions.
And there you are.
Soon on the premises of Bucharest Municipal
Pretty good signal.
Museum.
Radio Romania 13650.
The Teodoraman Museum is one
So
of
that's the
Bucharest's most
A22
beautiful
frequency
museums,
for North America.
playing host to painter Teodoraman's collection. It was also his house. A lot of people must have visited the museum already. Those who are not familiar with it, I invite them to seize the opportunity. The house is superb. It is.
So Radio Romania 13650. Catalin, did anyone receive satellite images from the GO satellite in Europe? Really need a 2-meter dish for that. Preparing a antenna as a Friedhorn. Um, you do need good because the ghost satellites are in geostationary orbit, pretty much. You need some really, really good equipment to get something for that. It won't work with a standard 2 meter antenna. It's not like the low Earth NOAA satellites. The low Earth NOAA satellites on VHF are much easier to receive. Jim from Rhode Island. Nice to have you here. Let me see here. No problem, Regulus. Keegan DXer, nice to have you on board. Rebranded from XNA DXer. Nice to have you here, my friend. Oh yeah, I'm sure there are some car stereos with shortwave if you start going in. I remember the one that we'd see all the time in the magazines like Monitoring Times. If you guys remember, there was that Philips model that was probably one that I've seen all the time. All the time. David, KJ4CMY, when I lived in England, a shop had a German car radio with 49-meter band. Almost bought it. Francis Moore, the Sony ICF 7600JR picked up for 50 pounds, came with an AN LP1 active antenna, and I've had great results on battery power when using the AC adapter, bad interference, and little reception. That unfortunately happens a lot when you use an AC adapter on pretty much all radios. So, pretty crazy. What else do we have? Let me just go down here. I'm pretty much down. Sheldon Harvey from Greenfield Park, Quebec. Nice to have you on board from CIDX headquarters, the Canadian International DX Club. What else do we have? Did I miss anybody else? Just looking at all of this. Every time, Tosin Loaf, every time I've used a car radio, even in rented cars, there's always seemed to be amazing reception. These always seem to be real good compared to a standard radio you'd get anywhere. Very often. Jason, VE9, JMC. Nice to have you on board. Good evening. How do I fix my Midland WR400? What is the problem with it? And I don't know. Maybe contact Midland if you don't know where to send it in. Just want to say there's going to be a medium wave AMDX test. I will definitely be tonight at midnight local here, 04 to 06 UTC. Checking that out because it's going to be interesting to see if I can get it here in Montreal. So for those that want to try something unusual, that tonight, the Courtesy Program Committee of the International Radio Club of America and National Radio Club are pleased to announce a dual test from the Bluegrass State. Stay up late with us on Saturday night / Sunday morning as WWKY 990 in Winchester, Kentucky, and WMST 1150 in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, will both be conducting maintenance tests for 2 full hours. The test starts at midnight Sunday morning, April 10th, 04 UTC, and lasts until 2 a.m. Eastern Time, 06 UTC. Both stations will run at their daytime power in pattern. That's 2,500 watts for WMST and 350 watts for WWKY. Snagging this dynamic duo will be a challenge. To help make it easier, the station is broadcasting some of the best DX test material available. The test will consist mostly of sweep tones, Morse code at 20 words per minute and 12 words per minute, and long tones and proven sound effects to cut through the noise. We'll have also uncovered some vintage jingles from both stations that they'll mix in for even more fun. And of course, there's a QSL card available for that. So 04 to 06 UTC tonight. Okay, that's midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You will have the WMST station at 2500 watts. That is on 1150 kilohertz. And there will be the WWKY station at 350 watts on 990 kilohertz. So 2 stations to try for. I will definitely be trying for these stations tonight. WWKY 990 in Winchester, Kentucky, and WMST 1150 in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, on medium wave or AM from 04 to 06 UTC. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll be definitely trying tonight with some radios in my AN 200 loop and see what we can hear, how to hear in Montreal. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. What else do we have? Let's go down. So if you guys want to try some AM DXing, the Morse code is particularly good to pierce through the noise. So it's going to be nice. Barry says, I managed to keep the car stereo from my 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee that has AM stereo. Odd receiver from the Chrysler line of radios. Uncle Justin, nice to have you on board. KB2RMC in Rochester, New York. Dr. Sisop has a Panasonic car stereo with shortwave, but using the radio antenna on a car gives you limited range, and it cannot use any other antenna. And no CB goes from 2.3 to 21,500. Yeah. Barry, yay, those stations are practically in my backyard, give or take a few miles. So you'll be hearing tests tonight from that. Definitely where you are. Vladislav, the BBC on 11680. Yep, that's one of the frequencies added. Let's see how good it is here. 11680. A little weak in the noise, but they're there. BBC with that frequency, which is for Eastern Europe, actually, for Ukraine and Russia. 11680. Francis Moore, Dr. Sisop 1150 is strong here in Florida. Michael, nice to have you here. Harold Anderson, if you're new to ham operator, I would have no problem to tell you to buy a IC 7300 or an ICOM IC 7100 and a 80 to 10 antenna for my antennas in the US. That's the way to get on the air. As I was saying a little earlier, Sheldon saying, don't want to miss our International Radio Report show tomorrow. Something a little different for sure. Tune in to hear us venting about current state of shortwave radio. I think as I was talking about it extensively, Sheldon, just before you arrived, said that I think everybody wants to listen to the show tomorrow. We will definitely have some. And don't forget, youtube.com/International Radio Report. If you don't listen live from the CKUT website, ckut.ca, you can also, or from your favorite streaming app, you can listen to an archive, download an MP3 on Monday on the CQUT website with the archives, or youtube.com/International Radio Report, which is a great place where you can subscribe and you'll be there. And we have our show there every week on Sunday, about an hour after it aired on CKUT. What else do we have? A lot of people here from New Jersey, quite a lot. We do have, there's a few states that are very well represented, I got to say, in the U.S. For radio and for the channel here. So that's the thing about AM. I'll repeat the AM medium wave test coming up later. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to tune around. Yeah, Brother Steron 5900. That's come from the Bulgaria transmitter site. In 3 minutes, if you guys want to try, we've got I've got 3 number stations that are coming in 3 minutes. One is M12 from Moscow, Russia. One is F06A, which is also a Russian number station. And we have HM01, which is the Cuban number lady. So we can try all 3 of them that are coming up in just 3 minutes from now. What I'll do is I'm going to try 19417 RTTY. 19.417. I'll put that here and for the RTTY. I'll put the M12CW, which is Morse code on 7575 on the Kenwood. And if I don't hear it, we'll try the if you don't have CW or Morse code, you can tune in sideband and just tune 1 kilohertz off 7576 or 7574. So here we go, 7575, and we'll put ourselves in CW here. And that's going to be, I don't know if we can hear that one at this time. We still have a couple of hours of daytime here. So we're going to be trying that in a few seconds. Greg Walker, how expensive is it in Canada to get a shortwave broadcast license? Is a lot of red tape to get it? I don't know specifically about shortwave broadcasts, but I can tell you that having just a license to broadcast on the regular AM FM band is a lot of money and a lot of paperwork in order to be able to get a license. So I would guess by the fact that there's nobody in Canada that seems to have any private, well, we have these stations like CFRX Toronto and so on that are already on the air and already been there for a long time. But I think maybe the fact that no private organization is coming up with at least one shortwave outlet is telling us that one, probably very difficult to and expensive to get a license for that. Also, you got to set up for it. You need, antennas, and you need transmitters, and you need land. So, it's pretty crazy. So I would guess it's a tough one. So let's see any of these stations coming through. Not hearing anything on 19417. Seven 575s, very, very weak. Very, very weak. I barely hear it. And 16180, the Cuban number. Not hearing it. So not hearing that right now. Okay. Jim Gordon, 49 meter was once very popular in Europe, particularly Germany. Luxembourg had 500 kilowatt station on. It was 6090. Luxembourg was on 6090. I remember that frequency very well, 6090. Offshore station, RNI had 10 kilowatts on 6210. It was often called the 49 meter European or Europa band. It's still quite popular in Europe. There's a lot of pirate stations that are actually on that band. Honestly, it's very, very surprising. Danielle Marc Leblanc, nice to have you here from New Brunswick, Canada. Let's see here. Any pirates that popped up just out of curiosity on the info. So 9500 apparently still with not hearing anything. Some people reporting 9500 upper sideband with a chill CHIL pirate station. It's pretty much the only one being reported right now, but still some people reporting it 9500. So if you hear that in your area, and so here we are. Nice to have the updated list of shortwave broadcasts from the from EIBI space. It's fun now. I can kind of find out what I'm listening to. The HFCC list isn't bad though, honestly. Anthony, being in Florida, the Cumin number station is always strong. Keegan DXer has reception today with his Ethon Grundig Field BT radio and Ethon edition, Grundig edition satellite with SSB. What else do we have? Skipwave. Bands haven't opened up yet here. They should have. There's let's check out the unless there's some activity. Unless there's some unusual activity. Let me do a little quick tuning of the icon here. Let's start in low, like 9300. 9265, I think, is where WINB. So let's check what's here, for example. So 9265 kilohertz. If you guys want to see it a little closer, I'll do this. And I don't know if you guys can see the frequency display here. 9265. WINB. WBCQ 9330, not very strong. WWCR 9350. Radio Marti on 9565.
Los servicios de rescate afirman que el bombardeo ocurrió a finales de febrero y principios de marzo.
Thanks for
poco probable que
letting me
haya
know
gente
that
con
we can
vida
see the
debajo de
display
los
frequency,
escombros.
Keegan.
Desde el jueves, la Fiscalía General de Ucrania denunció que se habían descubierto casi
Vojislav has 75 strong over there in Europe. Donald E. Smith from Bermuda, nice to have you here. Mark Drager, nice to have you here. Southeast Wisconsin.
Entre civiles y militares, mientras que la asediada Mariupol al suroeste.
WTWW real strong in 94, 9940. WWCR 9980. That's pretty much what we have here. WWV on 10 megahertz. So that's a little bit of tuning 31. We'll try 25 in a short while. But let's see conditions. I haven't checked right now. Space water. What type of conditions are we having right now? K index is at unsettled conditions, so that's why maybe it's not up to par. Solar flux is down though, 109. So that's the lowest solar flux in quite a few days, if not a few weeks. So the ups and downs of solar activity. So propagation isn't maybe up to par as it could be at this time right now. Let me just put this back kind of here. There we go. What else do we have? Okay. Steve Hill, North Carolina, receiving 93.65, 92.65, I would guess. Francis Moore, what point are we now in the solar cycle? We're still in the beginning of the solar cycle. So the official solar cycle prediction from NOAA and NASA is that we're going to have a peak in 2025. Now, the speed at which we're actually rising is much faster than the prediction. So many things can be happening with that. It could mean that we'll have a peak before. So it could say that the peak would be in 2024 instead. It could still stay in 2025, but be a larger cycle because the cycles are an average. Remember that it's 11 years. And so the longest cycle, I think, is something like 19 years. And the shortest one was like something like 7 years or 6 years. It was very short. But right now, we're kind of looking at a cycle that might be much stronger than what they had predicted. And it is definitely going up much faster. So this is interesting. But we're still at pretty much the beginning. We're at least a couple of years off solar maximum still. And if that peak would still be 2025, then it would be still 3 years before maximum. So we're going up, but we're going up much faster, which isn't a bad thing, actually. Glenn Zeckman, nice to have you here from Tennessee. Turbo Tim, nice to have you on board. Got no chewing tobacco, but I got some vodka. Robert Cross has 9600 China Strong. Jason V9 JMC propagation has been wonky the past couple of days. Yeah, it's up and down because of all sorts of coronal mass ejections and stuff. And also remember that the days are starting to get longer. So, what we had as a good propagation around 20 UTC here might now shift a little more towards the 21, 22 UTC time frame for sure. So it's kind of interesting. Kamakazi 1976, nice to have you here from West Michigan. Francis Moore, yeah, and it's not just the inner and outer matter that rotates at different speeds. It's also rotates at different speeds depending on the latitude. The more you are close to the pole, the slower the rotation. It's kind of a weird that's what makes the magnetic field go all wonky and make those cycles. It's pretty crazy. The sun is an amazing thing, and it's crazy. And we know very little, honestly. We've been observing the solar cycles since about the mid 1600s, 1700s, 1600s, I think. The solar cycle and the first sunspot ever seen was pretty much, I think it was Galileo with his telescope, and he's kind of one of the first ones to have seen the sunspot. I might have read somewhere with really huge sunspots at sunset that very long time ago, like the Chinese astronomers, very like 5,000 years ago, might have spotted some sunspots. Because when they're really huge at sunset, you can actually see them with your naked eyes. So but officially the counting of solar cycles and the solar activity is like in this mid 1600, 1700. And then there's been on and off observations from the solar cycles back then until modern times, when now we're looking at all of that much more precisely. But the fact is, we know very little about our sun, and very little about how it really works and what's creating all of those, solar cycle disturbances. It's really been in the past 30 years, 20 to 30 years, that we've really started kind of having the knowledge of the rotation of the sun being different, making the magnetic field twists and all of that. It's crazy, but we are still in the learning curve of what the sun is all about. And I imagine. What else do we have? Steve Hill, what happened to Radio Romania? We used to hear them on 6020 every night at 12 midnight Eastern time. They shifted their frequencies. They're now on different frequencies for the summer schedules. You have to go to rri.ro. They have the full schedules there. But they have simply shifted the frequencies for the summertime, because that frequency of 6020 at local midnight Eastern time, which was is 04 UTC, was for the West Coast. And I believe they shifted those frequencies around like all the other frequencies. If I look here, I'm just going to look at the schedules of EIBI here. So if we look at EIBI space, so now you would hear them normally. And by the way, when you see the frequencies of Radio Romania, there's always a couple that are not working. Radio Romania has transmitter problems, and I've noticed that a lot of their transmitter frequencies, the frequencies that are actually noted, are not correct. So if we look at Romania, I'm just going to go here, Romania. Romania. The next at that time, so we have the early frequencies. Then the next one is at 03 UTC now, which means it's 11 p.m. instead of midnight that you would have it for Western North America. And the frequencies used are 73.75 and 98.50. And I believe the only one I heard was 73.75 here. So they shifted time and frequency. So it's going to be local time 11 p.m. instead of midnight. Barry says that one of his cats loves to stretch out on the table next to him during these live streams. So that's cool. That's fun. A shortwave radio cat. No, definitely never look at the sun through a telescope without a filter. That's for sure. Daniel Marc LeBlanc, what's the big difference between ham radio and CB radio? Do you need a ham radio permit before actually using a ham radio equipment, or must you be fully certified before getting into the hobby? So there's a big difference. So CB radio is really just being to be legal. We'll put it in the legal terms. To be legal, it's the 40 channels of CB, which is 26965 up to 27405, 40 channels. You have single sideband in there also that you can have, upper lower sideband. That doesn't require any license, and it's meant, although skip can happen and some people have made contacts, long distance contacts, it's technically meant to be local more than anything else. Ham radio is very different. Ham radio is on different bands. There's a full access of different frequency ranges for ham radio operators. And of course, the power levels you can use and all of that are different. Amateur radio operations require a license. You have to pass a test. So, for example, you're in Canada, so you have to pass a test at the ISED by an examiner and be certified at the ISED government website that actually has it's innovation, science, economic development, something like that, ISED. So what happens is that you have to pass a test. You have to find an examiner where you pass the test, 100 questions with knowledge about radio, amateur radio, and all of that. If you've never or don't have that knowledge, you can there's courses that you can follow. I've been licensed since December. I'm now Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India. I actually followed my ham radio license course online, even though I probably could have passed without it. It's not a requirement. You don't have to follow the course to have an examiner and pass a test. But if you don't have all the knowledge, and even if you do have a lot of knowledge, I think it's not a bad idea to pass a course anyways, just to check it out. You can pass it online. They have virtual courses right now. I followed mine with Al Pinney, VO1NO. You can find all the details of that on the Radio Amateurs of Canada website. That gives you dates when there's new ham courses. Ham radio is much more. It's much more than CB radio. It's not just talking locally. It's you have access to HF bands like 40-meter band, 20-meter band. You can talk across the world with it. You have all sorts um, of it's like amateur radio is an experimental license in a sense that you are part of radio experimentation. You are also part of being able to transmit on frequencies up to the gigahertz range. There are bands, amateur bands, on HF, VHF, UHF. You can, of course, use your ham license for emergency purposes. That's one of the uses that is very, very nice when some emergency happens, when something goes bad. There's often, emergency nets that go on. You get a call sign, and you have to follow specific rules of radio operations. And it's a cool hobby. It's much more than CB radio. And like I said, it requires you to pass a test. And in Canada, the way it is you've got kind of 3 levels if you want. If you pass the test and you have more than 70%, but less than 80%, you have what's called the basic license. It gives you 30 megahertz and above privileges, so VHF, UHF only. If you have 80% or more, you have what we call, basic with honors. This is what I have. That opens up every frequency range, including the shortwave, the HF bands, where you can have contacts. And then there's a more advanced license that gives you more privileges, including making your own equipment if you want, and also gives you the privilege of being an examiner if you want. You can actually have people pass their tests, and you will be the examiner there. So it's really it's a different world, totally different world, and there's all sorts of things, digital modes of all sorts. There's slow scan television. There's a lot of people are into FT8, which is the thing because of the fact that you can do a lot of DXing and contacts around the world with low power. But it's a different world, totally different world than CB radio. A lot of people actually go from CB radio to AM radio operations. It happened a lot in the past, and I think it probably still happens today somewhat. What else do we have? So, like I said, Steve, Radio Romania is 03 UT now, so it's 11 p.m. and they're on different frequencies, 73, 75. What else do we have? It seems here in Connecticut that medium wave frequencies above around 1220 is hard to get clear reception without lots of noise and station overlap. Is this just my area or common to the upper medium wave band? It depends on the status of the frequency of the medium wave frequency you're listening to. So the medium wave band is divided into all sorts of things. Clear channels. Clear channels means that there's very few stations that are on that frequency range, and they are often full power. Sorry, guys. So what happens is that you have the possibility of getting easily stations. That's why on some frequencies you find it easy. You find it easy to get these stations, but there are other frequencies where the power levels and the stations themselves cannot use more than a certain amount of power. So what happens is that on some of the frequencies you're mentioning with a lot of noise and overlap, including some of them called graveyard frequencies, what happens is there's no real powerful 50 kilowatt station there most of the time. It's local AM stations. And what happens is you have a lot more of them very often. So at night, you will have this white noise of something on frequencies like that. It's not just local to where you live. It's really it's the way that the AM band has been divided on clear channel frequencies that are easy to get stations and all sorts of other low powered frequencies of all sorts. These are a challenge to actually DX. You have to, really, really stand in there and try to get the best you can from that little signal, making it a little better than the others. A lot of these frequencies, what happens is in the daytime stations can have full power, but at night when the sun sets, they have to actually cut the power or change the antenna patterns so as not to interfere with others. But that's normal. It's the way the AM band has been divided between high-powered clear channel stations, low-powered stations, graveyard frequencies of all sorts that we call, and those are a challenge to do. So um, it's something, and because they're higher, also what happens is when you get higher in frequency, the propagation is slightly different. And you can actually see that even in the medium wave band from a frequency of, 600 kilohertz, the propagation you'll get from a frequency on 1600 kilohertz, that 1 megahertz step actually changes a little more the distance and what you'll hear on the frequencies. So it's the way that the bands are just divided. So not specific to your area. It's like that everywhere in North America. Uncle Justin, Naked Eyes is a great band. Name their big song. Something like is something always there to remind me, or something like that. I believe. Scott KC2CAD. Nice to have you here. Mark Drager, Spain on 17855 strong, but there's a 50 cycle hum. Harold Anderson. So just talking about ham bands and CB. TFP Taloa Fishing, 16180 Cuban Lady inside office at PL330. Cool. Steve Hill, KN4POW is the call sign. We have Carl Icon, 15580, Voice of America, playing pop music into New York, fitting out. Barry says, yeah, the FCC had dropped that weird limit of, and it's funny because the FCC had a limit of 250 miles skip. The problem is sometimes you just have no choice, I mean, I've seen people with a standard CB, making contacts pretty far away. Mark Traeger is KD9 USO. Call Icon, and he's got your call. Oh, congratulations. You got your call this week, KD9 USO. Wow, congratulations. Carl Icon, 4 watts is for AM, 12 watts on single sideband. So that actually gives you at the peaks the possibility to punch in a lot more on skip, particularly. What else do we have? Francis Moore, do you think if alive, Richard B. Feynman could help us with all things regarding the sun? Who knows? It's crazy when you look at all the different people I go back in time sometimes and look at how people discovered different things in science and all of that in the past, and what would they be like today? What would somebody that had that breakthrough theory or whatever today, or Alembic 65 here in Northeast Ohio, the more corporate Lehman PR station in Cleveland just took over the Superior Kent State area NPR. So, always a positive things when somebody takes over another frequency for sure. George, nice to have you here from Mexico. Crooked Ninja 5, nice to have you on board, my friend. Good to have you here. What else do we have? Donto, nice to have you here. Tim Parsons, have you been able to reach the WeatherFax transmitters in Alaska or California? So the WeatherFax from California, Point Reyes, California, I do get it from time to time. The Alaska station, I've never heard. Never heard. Daniel, nice to have you here from ZS5DG. Pretty cool. Harold Anderson in Norway, only one license, and then if you passed, you have it all. Hey, Grabiel, nice to have you on board in the middle of his second Moo expedition. Pretty cool. I hope to see all of your great catches there. Nice to have you here, and have fun. That's the best thing. Just having fun. George, thank you for making the Shortwave Listening Beginner series. I watched all the videos, and now I'm enjoying more this wonderful hobby. Cool. Yeah, like every hobby and everything, we need to understand a minimum of all of it. And I think that once you start getting that, I am happy about that, because let's face it, you buy a radio today, the manual just explains the buttons and the stuff that the radio does, and often a very bad way too, but it has no other aspect of radio. You don't know anything else. So what happens is that you're left with a radio that you're not really sure what to do with. I was lucky because even though the manual was small, it's still, whoever made the manual for my realistic DX100 back in the 1982 went straight to the point of, here's how to use the radio. Here's where you listen to stuff. And oh, by the way, you can QSL. And here's propagation day-night. It was enough to have just the basics of, oh, okay, works like that. Oh, okay. But it was just the basics that was enough to have an understanding. Where are the international broadcast bands? Where are amateur bands? Where's the utility stuff? Where's the marine stuff? Where's the aeronautical stuff? They actually highlighted these things. So I started off with the basics that actually helped me from the start. And that's something that's missing today on a lot of radios. You buy a radio and you don't have any basics of it. The only thing you got is, oh, that does a single sideband. It's used on the handbands. Yeah, okay. Where are the handbands? You said it's used on the handbands. I have no idea where the handbands are. Of course, because you're new. You have no idea where everything is. And that is something that radio back then told me. It said, oh, the handbands are here. Like, oh, okay. So we're going to try that, Dan, nice to have you here from Ohio and 8WJZ. Steve Hill is using a vintage DX440 receiver. Cool. Paul Steckler, there's always something there to remind me. It was a big hit for Dionne Warwick before Naked Eyes redid it. Actually, they're don't want to go that too much, but there was sometimes when you get bored, you do stuff. I went on YouTube and I was like, okay, what could I watch on YouTube that would be unusual? And I found a channel that it's quick videos. Well, quick videos, like, maybe 20-minute videos or 15-minute videos that have like top 50 hits of each year. And I mean, I started, I think, in 1950. And that 20-minute video contains top 50 hits of 1950. And then you go to 1951, 52, 53, 54. And I thought, this is cool. I want to see what are the top 50 hits every year. And it made me realize how many songs of the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s were remakes of these old times. I was amazed. There were tons of songs I had no idea. And I was listening to them and I was like, really? That's the original. And even in 1950, there were a few that were not even the original, but a remake of another one. So it's like, so there was a remake of a remake of a remake. And it's funny because you hear these big hits and you're like, oh, look at that. That's a remake. Okay. I didn't know that. What else do we have? Dr. Sisop, 2024 FCC allowing 100,000 watts on FM stations. It's so funny because there's a story about a station here in Montreal, Dr. Sisop, that you might not know of. They've lowered that power since then. So if you look at the license of Montreal stations, there's one station that is on 96.9 FM. And that station is CKOI, CKOI. That station in the 80s was heard everywhere. And I remember somebody coming up to me one day and said, did I read the power right on that station? Because it says 307 kilowatts. 307,000 watts. Now that's way higher than every other station. Most FM stations were like at 50 kilowatts, or I don't know what's the peak that they're allowed, but it was definitely like above everything else. Apparently, the story behind it was that they wanted to have 30.7 kilowatts, but they forgot the dot. So it read 307 kilowatts and were actually approved for 307 kilowatts. Nobody objected. Everybody said, oh, okay, 307 kilowatts. And they actually used 307 kilowatts for a long time. You would tune a radio with the antenna collapsed and you'd hear CKOI everywhere on all the frequencies of any radio. And if your radio was cheap, you were stuck listening to 96.9 pretty much. That was crazy. Now today they've lowered the power. They've lowered. They removed that. Probably was costing too much money for them. But I mean, that was the station. You would be in a car and you would drive off and you'd have all of the Montreal stations gone, but you'd still hear that one really well. It was crazy. That's there. Tuning late, better than late than never. Absolutely. And hope you are well, my friend. Then Pharaohs, the sun is just complex because it has really complex physics. It's not like we have weak physicists and solar physics. It's just, yeah, it's like everything in the universe. It's like we're trying our best to learn, and we are learning, but it's complex. It's totally complex what's happening with all of the, just like this week, there was that discovery of that W boson thing that's like making all physics not work suddenly. Yeah, Voice of Freedom, WTWW, calling themselves Voice of Freedom since they've been broadcasting towards Ukraine and Russia. Propagation of the shortwave bands is very unique and very special. A lot of people are asking, why are signals fading in and out all the time? Well, the ionosphere is always kind of it's a living thing. It's always reorganizing itself. So the ionosphere is created by the sun's radiation. What happens is that ionosphere it's not a layer that's stable. It's a layer that is always there's interaction all the time. Interaction with our magnetic field, interaction with the sun, the amount of energy the sun gives. Is there a solar flare? Then there's going to be some disturbance happening in that ionosphere. It makes signals vary greatly. You can, from 1 minute, have a very weak signal to 2 minutes later having a really strong signal of something. You can have a really strong signal and it suddenly disappears because of some effect of a solar flare or whatever. It's really, really amazing what happens. Ricardo, nice to have you here from Portugal. FM does need some expansion here too in Montreal. I think there's no more space. Michael, is the Ethon Field radio analog with digital display? It looks like one you reviewed. It's not an analog radio. It's a radio that is driven by a DSP chip, like a lot of the modern radios today. TFP Taloa Fishing worked 37 countries with less than 100 watts. I called CQ last time about a week and a half ago, and I need to sit down. You know what? Tonight that could be something before the AM tests. Maybe I should sit down to my FT 450 and do a few contacts. I use 100 watts on my FT450 on the ham bands. And when I call CQ, I sometimes will fire up an SDR somewhere, see if I can hear myself as I'm calling CQ. And I noticed that in some places I am so strong and it's just 100. And you're like, yeah, okay. There's these guys that are kilowatts of power and yeah, you hear them all the time over the bands everywhere, but still, I listen to that and I'm like, 100 watts still kicks ass. It still does a lot on the ham bands. And, it can do even more for people that do FT8. People that do FT8, 20 watts, 30 watts, and it's like, yeah, you cover the world. It shows you don't need necessarily in the right conditions, the right mode sometimes. You don't need to have the kilowatt of power, it's like overkill sometimes. Jeff in New Hampshire, nice to have you here. W1XTX, pretty cool. How do you change your chat room name? I believe you can do it by simply, I don't know. Anybody can answer the question. VA3JPX, Mrs. Radio Shack. Yeah, I think we all do. All of those that have been there for sure. Metalunar, are there other radio YouTube channels that you like watching? I will rarely watch channels that deal with just receiving or something very close to my channel, because that's what I do. So sometimes I will have, I will look at some of the channels that I'm subscribed from some of you, that I see the pop up sometimes, like Mad Radio DXer. I know it's like yesterday, I think Mad Radio DXer was watching a video. Um, there are quite a few videos. There's that I'm subscribed from you guys, that I see the pop ups, and out of curiosity, I'll go watch your video. I'm not a commenter much. I'll be a thumbs up guy, but I'm not a commenter much. So I will rarely comment on it. So I'll be there watching your video and you don't know it, but I'll give you the thumbs up. That's for sure. Um, I'm more of I'd say more of the technology side of radio, and so I'll go to guys that fix old radios, old tube radios, or old radios in general, any type of radios. Mr. Carlson's lab, stuff like that. I'm more of that side of going into. Okay, so you're gonna fix today an old Philco radio from 1942. Okay, I'm gonna watch that. It lasts like an hour, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that. I want to see you restoring that radio and see what you did, and see it running. And that's more the side of the radio channels I'll be going to, than what resembles my own content, honestly. Maybe because I do that content, I'll subscribe to your channel happily. And by the way, once again, anybody out there has a YouTube channel dealing with radio, it has to be the rules for me to talk about it. The majority of the videos on your channel must be radio, no politics, no controversial content. Even if it has, maybe 20-25% of other content not related to radio, as long as the majority of the videos are radio, you can send a link to my email, official Shortwave Radio. Official Shortwave. I'll post the email here at gmail.com. Official Shortwave Radio at gmail.com. And you send me the link. Tell me, look, my channel is, talks about radio. And what I'll do in return is I'll look at it and I'll make a little review on this channel and post a link to your channel and tell everybody, hey, go subscribe and go watch this guy's channel, the rated videos from that guy. I'm not in a competition here. A lot of people are like, yeah, well, you don't. Yeah, I'm not in a competition. I have my own thing going, and no one's a competition for me out there. It's the other way around. Is we have to unite. If we want a radio to continue, it's like those bad hams that are always like poo-pooing the radio listener, like you're in, you don't know what you're talking about. And I've had people come here. I had one comment this morning, a ham guy that I won't tell the call sign, because his call sign is in his YouTube name, or his Google name. And he posted, well, this is the most boring channel I've ever seen. Your reviews are bad. And it's like, yeah, from a guy that doesn't even have videos on his own channel, first of all, because there's nothing there. And the other thing is, like, this is the kind of thing that when you look at it, it's like, come on, there's nothing constructive in somebody, making or belittling somebody else. Every time I see that, my favorite comment to a comment like that is, wow, I should leave your comment here to show everybody else how idiot you are. That's my favorite comment if I have to comment back to somebody about something like that. It's like, wow, it's nice I should leave your comment here because it shows everyone else you're really an idiot. I tell it all the time. I'm not in a competition, and we're all in here for one thing in particular. We all love radio. We all love radio. Why not share as much about it? Everybody has a channel. I've seen a few people that came here for the only, and, that's a cheap shot. And that's the way it works sometimes. I've seen people that have their own channel that came here and spent some time here for a month and a half, never came back because the only thing they wanted to do is try to get momentum on their own channel with radio stuff by coming here and pretending you're a good citizen of the chat room and of the videos and stuff and interacting and you're fun and nice, but in reality you're trolling somehow because you're kind of just trying to get views and more people attracted to your stuff using my channel. And it's something I never did. I never did that in any way. So, when I see somebody like, I see a few out there that have got some momentum because of that. And you're like, okay, fair. It's the way things go. But I never did anything like that. And I don't need to do that. We're in here, like I said, to help each other. And if there's more radio channels, there's more radio channels, more stuff for you guys to watch, more stuff that you might be interested in. That's all. That's cool. I have my unique way of doing reviews. And my reviews are based much more on everyday use comparing each radio. Some have reviews of very technical side of it of, well, this ratio of noise to signal and yeah, fine. You have that going? Cool. Some people are more technical. My reviews reflect an everyday use of a radio like an average guy would actually do using a radio. And I think, there's a lot of people saying, well, your reviews are very different from on some radios than other sources that I trust more. Well, if you trust them more, it's, go watch their reviews. That's all. Of course, the names that pop up are all reviewers that I actually know and watch their own reviews and respect them. And it's fine. We have our way of dealing and checking a radio, but we have different environments when we test radios. And here is a very unique place for that, because when we test radios, our environment might sometimes change what we think of it. For example, I got a lot of, hate comments because of that, but I'm sorry. The ICOM ICR30 portable receiver in an environment like I am here is the crappiest radio ever for the price that it's sold. But of course, if you live in a quiet environment that doesn't have the overload problem and all of that, it actually probably is good. And I see people, well, that guy says it's great. Yeah, it's great because he doesn't have the overload capability. But I don't want to say it's great because anybody else in the middle of the forest says it's good, for a very simple reason. I want everybody that lives in a big city like I do, that might have a lot of FM radio breakthrough or strong FM stations close, you're going to have a hell of a hard time with that radio. And it happens on some other radios. One particular one, the St. Jean ATS 909X2. The airband is unusable here. I cannot listen to the airband. It's overloaded by all the FM stations. There's FM breakthrough throughout frequency ranges that I don't have on the Texan receivers. My experience in my environment tells me that, okay, in that type of environment, it's no good. It doesn't work that well. But you have a St. Jean ATS 909X2. You live in a city or a small town where, there's no real big FM stations that are around. You got the standard, more of a standard signal from these bands and all of that. Well, yeah, you might say, well, that guy's wrong. Mine works fine. Yeah, because environment is something that's very important also and the operations of a radio. And I think the reviews are nice here for that. Is that if I don't rant about FM breakthrough, man, that radio is rock solid. And wherever you live, you won't have problems with FM breakthrough. Um, and then it's personal observations. Why did you not do this or that? Or why is this radio built like this when other radios were built like that? I try to give as fair of a review as possible. I have no, I've been called a Texan fanboy. Well, I'm a Texan fanboy because the radios I've had and used are good. Not because anybody pays me to say it, not because I have to say it, not because I'm fond of Texan or whatever, you know. Tomorrow morning I would have a radio called Bubble that would be great and fantastic, and I'd say, "Hey, Bubble, here's a new brand, that weird brand, but hey, it works great." When XH Data, I've got some bad radios from XH Data here, you know, but there's one particular one, the XH Data D808. You gotta admit, it's a great radio, but the other ones are crap. There are things like that. I'm not a fan of a brand. It just happens that Texan makes more radios than everybody else, first of all. Oh, you talk Texan all the time. Well, it's the only darn company that has 50 models. It's like there's a new Texan every 6 months. What do you want me to talk about? There's no new St. Gian every 6 months, or there's no Sony's every 6 months, or there's no. The only radio I can actually sincerely talk about a brand is, St. Gian had 3 new models last year or the year before or whatever. I will talk about Texan more because they have more models. So let's try them out and let's buy them all. Let's buy the company. It's the way it works. And I mean, we're all in here, like I said, for the same reason. We're all in here to have fun, and that's the thing. It's just that. What else do we have? Let's just go here. Let's just go down. I was a little down, so okay. Let me try to catch up where I was. Jim Hummel Newell, V5JHN, just made a call to the New Mexico QSO party. 1,965 kilometers on 20 watts. That's cool. Scott, KC2C80, remake, and do it one more time. Yep. Oh, man. Catalan says, missing some likes here. Is SDR DSP or PLL? It's all of that mixed in because the DSP has technically a phase lock loop to keep the frequency in it. Anyways. Francis Moore, starting to get a bit of a OCD about our son after listening to your broadcast a week ago or so ago. Just so fascinating. So I have time in my hand and we'll do more research and apply for a course to explore this subject. You never know. This is great. Because I talked about it, you have found some new fascinating world, because it is fascinating, honestly. It's really cool. It's the beauty of life, discovering something new as you go through, discovering new things. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think you can change your chat name, but I think you got to do it. Maybe you got to do it within your Gmail account. But there's a way to change it and come back with a different name. Todbert, I've watched a few things. Seems okay. I don't have honestly don't have much of a I can't say much about it. But he has this thing going. I mean, he has his way of doing it, which is nice. It's okay. It's okay. I see him regularly. He's one of the channels that's probably the closest to mine in terms of amount of views and all. He has this thing going, and I think that's the cool thing. Also, it's we each have our own thing going. What else do we have? HGDA Dakota. Watch the Starterbird's videos. That's helped me decide more than once on something I've purchased. What else do we have? Kalikon 6070 killers. This CFRX shortwave relay. Is there any other Canadian broadcast stations on shortwave relays? Yeah, there's the station out of Alberta, Canada. CFVP, I think it is. That is on 6030, if I'm not mistaken, the frequency. That one is a tough one here because it's low power. 6030, which is CFVP in Calgary. It's funny 1060. So if you ever hear a station on 6030 kilohertz, 6030, that has comedy skits, you're hearing Alberta. TVDXer, yeah, I think I've seen stuff from Radio TV Photonet. I think I did. That name rings a bell. Keegan Lloyd W4LVHDXers from Louisiana now. Steve Hill has a Secret in Skywave SSB. Tony, nice to have you here from Ireland. Anyone know how to bring the 3 a.m. bands on the Texan PL368 back to life? Mine has suddenly gone total deaf. Did you remove the battery 24 hours just out of curiosity? Because I'm wondering what's happened. Remove the battery 24 hours. And a real 24 hours. Ich bin's Dutch. Nice to have you here. Daniel Mark. In Atlantic Canada, you just can't find anyone these days that will fix old radios. Do you know of any individual or company that actually repair older radios who are stationed in Canada? There definitely are. Like in my case, I was lucky because the Kenwood R5000 got fixed by a friend of mine that's good in electronics. But definitely it's hard and harder to get anybody fixing radios. You know what I would do? I would you should write to maybe Radio World in Toronto or anything, and companies like that, but the stores like that, and ask them, I've got a radio to fix. Does where should I send it? I had this problem when my Kenwood R5000 back in the day started having the dots issue. There was a moment where I thought, well, maybe it would be worth having it fixed. And I went through Montreal. I mean, Montreal's a big city, it's one of the big Canadian cities. There are and still are around me here, probably in a 15-minute distance, at least 6 or 7 radio TV, the old school radio TV repair guys. Back in the day, like I'm talking about 2004 and 5, I asked all of them if they'd fix the Kenwood R5000. No one wanted to touch it. And for me, that's kind of funny because you know what? I understand it's a complex radio, but it's still a radio. And I have a hard time if you're a, old school TV repair guy that has a store front that you don't want to touch my radio. It was almost like, I want to do the easy stuff now, and I don't care about the rest. And it was that surprised me. I thought someone would say, "Yeah, just bring it in. I'm gonna play with that and fix it." No one wanted, you know. Um, so it's definitely tough to find somebody to fix an old radio or repair an old radio. Definitely. But that said, there must be still a few places that will do it. Joe Spring from Milton, Florida. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? What else do we have? Barry says there's a YouTube channel called Notaro Beacon, and he pins the bad comments to the top to show everyone how stupid the commenter was. Oh, man. Tony, any new radios for 2022? Well, if there is one, it would be that new Ethon satellite. What is it? The IN radio, that Ethon satellite extreme that is supposed to come out at some point, which prices are crazy high. I have no idea who would buy that. I would not at the price that it's sold. It's the only thing that I know of that would be a new radio, and Texan has not had anything new pretty much for a while now. So I think a lot of them are going to start surfing on the radios they have. Radio Ranky, nice to have you here. Says, I doubt many of your critics have anywhere near 35,000 subscribers. Congrats, K2YK. Kian DXer, apart from Michelle, I also watch Lloyd W4LVH, DX Central, Larry WD08KH, Radio Ham Guy. So, there's a lot of stuff out there. Tony, my Sony 7600JR suffers from terrible overloading on FM in particular, great on AM though, which is what I mainly use it for. So, yeah. We have, let me go down here. Leon, nice to have you here. Says your reviews are great. Bought an MLA30 after seeing your usage, and it's brilliant. Cool. RGA Dakota says, if I have good experience with something, I will use it. The 808's Google Radio. Texan has a lot of radios on the market. Yep. Radio spectroscopy. That's interesting. I should check into that. Joe Spring, I like reviews because the antennas you use, especially MLA30, are easy to deploy, and you use a variety of radios at different prices. Well, that's the thing here. I want to have everybody in the hobby, so I want to have everybody have something that they can, afford. Dr. Sysop, I get FM bleed through on airband and some shortwave bands. It's half a mile down the road. There's a 300-foot tower, 400 stations on them. So, yeah. Cricket Ninja, if it's a bad radio, I take it apart. Metal Lunar is through the environment being important in review. I am 0.8 miles from 5 kilowatt medium wave station, so medium wave breakthrough is always an issue here. So for sure. TVDXer's an Icom fanboy. Man, no, I need to use it. It's there looking at me, staring at me, Tony, the QRM eliminator. I really need to test it. It's looking at me right now as you say it. And I've been thinking about it this week, actually, of now how to, since it's easier now to go outside to set up some temporary antenna maybe for the noise. I'm going to check it out, maybe be able to test it out with, as long as I got the ICOM and the Kenwood here, might as well play a little bit with them and test them out, because that'd be maybe nice to try on these. But I definitely need to try it. It's mostly because of a mix of circumstances that make it difficult for me to test them out. But now with, the fact that I can put up a quick antenna outdoors to have my noise antenna, I'm gonna check it out this week. I have to check it out, definitely. Keegan, my dad, W9JEF, has an ICOM IC706 since 1996 and a 7300 since 2019. WSMI Umbru, I think you have the right outlook. The hobbies for fun. Some take things too seriously, it seems like, and I value your reviews. No, they aren't from an engineering lab, but they are very helpful. We're here to have fun, and that's the thing. ARRL has very technical reviews on radios with things like SFDR and IP3 and other detailed specs on ham equipment. I'm sure some other sites give similar detailed engineering reviews on shortwave rigs. And, you've got to be, I remember buying the what was it, the white pages, they were called, something like that, from the Passport to World Band radio. So when I got my Kenwood R5000, I want to have the white pages for it. I wanted to see, because they would test with lab equipment and give detailed graphs and of everything. And that would give them, a very precise look at how a radio behaves compared to another radio. And a lot of that came with the fact that, the star rating they had was based on a lot of those testing. But at the same time, you know what? It's just, it's cool because you see the real results, but at the same time, it's just tune it and compare it. You already have a great deal of differences you see in just, one radio over the other. Yeah, Shango 066. I remember seeing a lot of his videos. I remember that. Is he the one into the yeah, I think he's the one that I've seen a lot of old CRTs from long time ago that he revives or something. I don't know if it's him, but I always find it interesting. Tony, remove the BL5C for 25 plus hours and still the bands are dead as a dodo. Yeah, I'm wondering if you didn't touch the telescopic and you zapped the amplifier circuit with some static electricity. That is a very common problem you can cause on all the portables. If it's, especially when in the wintertime it's dry and you touch stuff and you got static electricity, you might have blown out just the amplifier circuit by touching the telescopic. And even if you didn't realize it, because you could have static electricity and you don't even realize it happened, but it's still thousands of volts into, transistors that just can't handle that. So I'm wondering if that isn't what happened. You fried out the output by static electricity. It could have happened. Unfortunately, it's something that it's something that that can happen. And I've zapped a few radios, but was lucky to that they came back to life after removing batteries for a while. It can happen that sometimes you're unlucky, unfortunately. Oh, that's for sure. Call icon. The great example of that. When I was a tech guy I was a tech guy for a little more than 15 years. When I started as a tech guy, computers were sold for $2,000. So if you repair and you say, well, it's going to cost you 225, the people look at you and they're like, well, 225 against buying another computer at another $2,000, much cheaper to 225, and everything is okay. Problem is, for a tech guy, like for a repair shop, your repair fees are not going down. You have your own repair fees for the time, and you have the parts. So radio is one example, and computers are the same example pretty much. Is as the years went by, 10 years later, oh, a same environment, same type of fix. So, well, it's going to cost you 225 to repair that problem. Yeah, but I paid the computer 700. Now that ratio is starting to be high, 225 versus 700. Still better, but it starts in the mind of people of, well, might as well maybe buy another one, brand new. And it got worse and worse as people were buying $400 computers. Yeah, the hard drive's dead. Me going to your place, changing the hard drive, reinstalling Windows, all the time that it takes, plus the part, 400 computer, $250 repair. Because I'm not going to go into where I'm going to eat craft dinner all the time because I don't have any money, because I have to lower my prices. It doesn't work like that. So you get to a point where it's like, well, you're so expensive. Yeah, well, you should know what it is to run a repair shop of some kind, and the time that you spend, and the knowledge that I have, and is the same for the radio. Well, you happen to be to a point where, look at Tony's PL368. Even if somebody would be able to repair it, what's the price of the radio? What's the price of the repair? We're in there now. We're at that point where it's like, yeah, might as well buy another PL368. It's going to be less expensive, or at least the same price. And it becomes where it's that's why I slowly got out of it. And that happened on many different things that you can repair. My uncle that used to repair TVs, VCRs, and radios and stuff, and stereos. I mean, in 1980, what you would charge versus the price of these devices was, yeah, you got to get it fixed. I remember my best friend in high school had a 26-inch TV that had tubes in it. That TV was like, I don't know how old, but a 26-inch TV, 1985, was $1,000. TVs were still expensive back then. So they'd look at their tube TV. The repair guy would say, yeah, I could fix it. And they would, have, I don't know, $100, $150. And TV would work for, a couple of years, and it was not $1,000 to spend. It's That's the thing. We are now in a point where there's very little margin of being able to repair, and people would pay. So it's like, okay, you want to be poor and don't have a life, or because as the years went by, in my 15 years, as the years went by, I was getting more and more of the criticism of, well, you're expensive. Yeah, but you don't understand, because people that are on the side of, I got that device to get fixed, don't understand the side of the repair guy that also gets, the repair guy needs to have a living, a minimum of standard living. Plus, you go to the place, it takes a certain amount of time to go there, the distance, the parts. Your time is worth, I remember one particular client that called me and said, well, it takes 4 hours. It's like, can you charge 2? I said, yeah, tomorrow morning, are you going to go? Okay. So tomorrow morning, you're going to go to your job and do 8 hours, but charge 4? Well, that's not the way it works. Well, that's not the way it works for me too. It's like, come on. I understand that, it could be painful to pay an amount of money, but it's all in a question of, what's the amount versus what a new one is. And that's why we have no more TV repair shops. That's why we have less and less places where somebody's going to fix our radios, because it's like, it's not worth it to continue here anymore. And radios today are not going to help, because even a Texan H501X, it costs a lot of money. Still will cost probably the same amount to have a new one rather than have it repaired. Prices, I've made the fixing, not something that it's worth doing anymore. What do we have? What else do we have? EA3IEK, I watched the 12-volt vids. He's a ham and former Sony Canada technician. Oh, that's interesting. Could be interesting. What do we have? Rufus, no one will pay for repairs today. Cheaper to throw it away. Got an IBM Selectric or Underwood 17 years ago. 17 years of experience. I know, it's not worth it today. Glenn, KB9IN from Milwaukee. Nice to have you here. Yeah, Hammerad, Tom Stiles is in Florida. Definitely. Francis Morgan Knight, keep well also. Stay safe. James, radio check. Well, it's cheaper to buy a new one than to get your radios repaired. It's a disposable world out there. Yep. Absolutely. And you can't, my observation is very simple, is I understand the repair side. So you can't, be bad of those guys that don't want to repair your stuff, because it's a lot, when it's a lot of time plus parts plus everything, you have to understand, people tend to not understand a lot of why a repair guy charges what he charges. And, I learned one thing through because that was one of the things that happened through my fixing career, my tech guy career, is at some point you start kind of questioning yourself as to what you're charging and how to deal with stuff. And I got the greatest answer on the internet, actually, because I'd been fixing maybe for 7 or 8 years, but I was getting more and more where you're expensive. And my 20-year-old, my 20-year-old neighbor does it for $25. Yeah. I actually Googled. It's not even Google. I think when I did it, Google was still not a thing, and I used a search engine and I said how to explain your the fees you're charging for a service. First answer that came up was you never have to explain why it costs that to do your service. That's your price. That's the way it is. There's no explaining to be done. You take it or you don't. That's all. And I thought, okay, that's the price. That's the way it goes. No explaining. You're not happy? Go somewhere else. I don't have to explain my fee to you at all. It's you take it or leave it. That's all. And that's the way I worked afterwards. When people would call up, says, "Well, why do you charge?" That's the price. If you're, you can go somewhere else and try to find a better price if you want. That's all. And in everything, there's always those that go under. So it's like, the price I was charging was actually very, and I still think today, very, very good. But you always have that, newbie that comes in and says, well, I'm going to do it for half the price of that guy. Yeah. But the problem is that anybody that does it for half the price, that guy notices that he works like crazy for not that much money. And when people would call me, because, I had one particular client that called me, and I went there maybe 4 or 5 times. One time she mentioned, it's a little expensive. And, but she paid and it's okay. And then suddenly I didn't hear from her for a certain number of years. One day she calls and she says, well, I need your service. I haven't called you in a while, So I go to fix her computer, but it's all very different and all, whatever, a bad tech guy job. And she's like, and I tell her, it's like, well, it's going to be this and that. It's like, well, I had the other tech guy because I called the other guy, and she tells me the name, and I've seen him everywhere. I know he's one of the guys that charges like almost nothing. And she's like, well, he would do all of that for, much less than you do. And I said, and you wonder why he's not here today anymore, not doing this? Because he's got tired of working and not having any money. Because it's a hard job and you end up having no money. Do you work for free when you go to work? Do you work? And it's like, she just looked at me. It's like, so how much is it going to cost me? And I told her, it's going to cost you that. This is going to fix your computer. It's going to work fine. And she just said, well, fix it. And she never said anything else. And she called me after that. But it's, you get to a point where you're like, you know what? Why don't you shove your computer up your ass? Because that's exactly what I'd like to do right now. And I'm sure at some point there's a lot of, what you happen to do is deal with people and have to deal with, the understanding. You understand. I understand that $200 repair on a $400 computer is, it's not a good deal. But I cannot do it lower than that. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's not that I don't feel for you. That's the way it is. And I'm not going to go lower than that because, you know what? I'm going to go home tonight and not have any money and not do nothing. because you know what? I'm going to be poor and miserable. You don't understand that. There's a lot of fees that go with, having your business, and all that fees that go with everything that has to do with running your business. It's crazy. But today, the prices, everything went down so much that's why nobody, I don't know how many times I hear people saying, well, I would like to have this repaired. I fixed my fridge. My fridge suddenly was, it was freezing in the freezing department, but it was warm, and the in all where you put your milk and everything. And I paid 700 for the fridge. That is 10 years old. So you pay 700, and I was put in that situation. I called a repair guy. A guy said, okay, just going to see what's wrong is $100. Then if I fix it, if it's this part and that thing and that thing and that thing, and you're ending up, I was counting. It was like I end up with like, so it's gonna be 400 for the repair at home of my fridge. That's $700 and 10 years old. So of course, the first thing you think is, a 10-year-old fridge, I'm gonna buy a new one. I'll have a warranty and everything. It's the way that things are today. But you know what? I also am, the guy that kind of looks at stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go and check out Whirlpool model this fridge, warm at the bottom, blah, blah, blah. And you start looking at videos, and there's this guy, YouTube videos. There's this guy that has YouTube videos on how to fix your washer, dryer, and fridge. Tons of models. He has the exact fridge that I have, exact same model. It's like, so it's cold up, but it's warm down there. Here's how to fix it. And he shows you how to open the fridge, all the hidden screws, everything. And I started looking at him. And I was like, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, that's it ends up it's the fan that's at the top. There's a fan. The fan pushes all the cold air around. That fan doesn't work anymore. So he shows you how to test the fan. He shows you how to test if it's not the circuit that turns it on and off. And I end up, oh, it's the fan. And I end up going to a place to get a fan, and it cost me $45. I changed the fan myself, and the fridge has been working for the last 2 years now. It's cool when you can do it yourself, because it's the only way you can often keep something running. Because my problem, yeah, it's a lot of money, but I was ready to buy a new fridge. My problem wasn't there. My problem was more like, it's only 10 years old and it's going to go to the scrapyard or something. This is like wrong, And, you have the coolness of, hey, I fixed my fridge. I'm a guy. I fixed my fridge today, But it's the kind of things that, that's the way that things are today, basically. It's tough. Okay, what else do we have? Tristan, I wonder if you went back in time and get shortwave was its heights and took a modern radio like the PL990X, would you get lots of overload from many shortwave stations? From experience, I'll give you the experience of how I deal with overload with the different radios I've got. And that's going to give you, I think it's going to give us an idea of that process. So the strongest station I have here that creates overload over radios is WWCR. For some reason, WWCR packs such a strong signal here that it's always that station that overloads my radios. So let's go to that example. and think of the different radios I have. On a PL990X, if I'd go, let's say I'd go back just to 1982 when there's a lot of stuff on the bands. Would overload have been a problem on the 990X? I don't think that would have been much of a problem. What you need more in those days is a radio that is very, very good in selectivity. That would probably not be that bad on a 990X because of all the filters that it has. The biggest problem back then was not necessarily overload. The biggest problem back then was all the stations were jam-packed 5 kilohertz apart. You needed the best filters. That's why I got the R5000 here. When I got the R5000, the filters that came with this were way too wide. I had with it the improved AM filter that I changed in it. And that gave a selectivity that was much better to separate 5 kilohertz stations apart. So I would say what would be interesting to test with all the radios today, like the Texan 990X, is how well they could handle the amazing amount of signals jam-packed together in such a small space of the shortwave spectrum. What else do we have? Daniel Mark LeBlanc, ever thought of doing a piece on history of shortwave radio? Yeah, that could be interesting, actually. That could be interesting. Never thought of really doing a history of shortwave. Mike WX50, nice to have you on board. Richard Califano, when I photographed weddings, people would say that there are only 50 people, so it should be half price. I had to do the same work if there were 50 people or 400. It was the same amount of time. Yep. Tony, to replace my Texan PL368, I decided not to buy another one, but I saw the ATS 100. Yeah. You'll see. You'll see how well it goes. You know. Take care, George. What else do we have? What else do we have? Tony, here in Ireland, people used to rent their TVs in the 70s. Yeah, there was that market. Even here, I remember there was like rent your TV thing. I still remember you could rent your TV. Oh, man. Dang. Log 2112, nice to have you on board from Nassau Bay, Texas. Yeah, and you know what about photography? Because I have that also, and I have a friend of mine that is a professional photographer, and he's always kind of ranting at people wanting to have a better price. And one of the comments they start getting today is like, well, my friend with his smartphone takes tons of nice pictures. Yeah, I don't think you understand how real good professional photography works like. It's the kind of thing that Mike WX50, I'm a tech guy at a public school. Every student has a Chromebook, which doesn't really require much in the way of troubleshooting or repair. VT Radio, I sent my Kenwood TS590SG out for repair. They replaced a 50-cent diode for $250 labor. I was happy to pay it because I couldn't repair it myself. And it's a device that costs a lot of money. And an example of that also is, like a repair shop. You got to think about there's the price of the part isn't necessarily the problem. You know, I remember, people would want RAM, and it's like I remember there was a time when RAM was like, yeah, I'm gonna install 4 gigs of RAM for $30. The RAM is $30. It's nothing in the price of all of it. What's something in the price is my fee, and it's because you got to do um you got to do and take the time so that you have the fee of how much time it's going to take for all sorts of things. And it might be a 50 cents diode, but there's somebody that took the time to fix it. It was a certain amount of hours. Then you got to think about, and what people don't think is the overall picture is like, yeah, but it's a repair shop that needs to pay the rent, the electricity, needs to pay for all sorts of equipment. And so it's the global price of $250 is all of that together. And that person needs to eat and have a life, you know. And a device that costs a lot of money, yeah, when my kid went our 5,000, if one of the repair guys would have said, yeah, 2 to 300 is going to be fixed, I would have paid 2 to 300 because I paid maybe only 800 for it when I got it, but it was overall with the filters and everything. In my head, it was still a $1,600, $1,700 radio, and it was like, yeah, have it fixed, yeah. And I still got my Kenwood R5000. Why not? So TB Ostrowski, are you a Habs fan? I'm not much of a hockey fan. I was much more of a baseball fan. So I miss the Montreal Expos much more than I would look at any Canadiens game, any Habs game. TVDX, sir, when you did your tech jobs, what was your service area? It was Montreal only, and not even all the island. It was really just as a part of Montreal. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure TPF Taloha that you can still find tubes for Zenith Transoceanic. There are places that specialize in selling tubes, actually, but tubes are getting very, very expensive. Very expensive. Oh, that definitely also, like Tony says, with today's devices, it's just like impossible to repair. Also, that's the other thing. Also. I don't think it's going to force us to repair our devices, even if there would be China sanctions, and there won't be. You know why? Because it hurts us. So there's never going to be real good China sanctions because it hurts us. We are in a world where we decided that somebody else is making stuff. Deal with the way that person is now actually in the world. That's the way it is. V3JPX, pay anyone to knock on your computer to fix it. Pay more for someone who knows where to knock. Yep. That's pretty much it. Same thing. Yeah, Jim's a radio check. You want to buy a warranty. It's like you buy this $30 or $20 or $40 thing. It's like, well, for $10, you're gonna have an extended warranty. It's like, yeah, it's 1/3 of the price. Come on, guys. Oh man. PR4470. Remember, my brother had an auto body repair shop back in the early 2000s. He was in your same situation. A lot of people wanted work done at their cars for small, low prices. Absolutely. I'm going to tell you that. My speaker's on fire. Yeah. It's burning a long time. I don't know what material it's made, but it's been burning for 2 hours and some minutes. Ricardo, great take on do it yourself and all appliances. One really needs to make an effort. It's not everybody that can. I mean, I understand that, but it's like, you know what? David, I was just to say exactly the same thing. The speaker's on fire. Oh, man. I mean, what does he have? Let me just try to find where I was. Okay, here we go. Greg, 2 years ago, I fixed our washing machine with a 10-cent zip tie based on a YouTube video. Yeah, there are things that sometimes it's worth going online and seeing. Okay, anybody have seen this? And it's like, oh, look at that, you can do it with that. Um. Take care, Daniel. Mark LeBlanc. Always nice to have you on board. Team Ostrowski, I'd love to repair my Granny Satellite 500, but it'll be costly. But when the lotto comes in, I'm doing it. Take care, VT Radio. Nice to have you here, as usual, Paul. On right to repair. This has to do with a very different subject. Right to repair goes more in the ability or the possibility to repair when a company doesn't want to do it. A great example of that is when I was in computer tech. I would also repair Mac computers. And people have a tendency to think that an Apple Mac has very specific hardware unique to Apple, which is not true. Pretty much any PC part worked in a Mac. And what happens is that at some point, Apple didn't want any repairs be done without very specific people doing it that were their own thing, first of all. So they started doing all sorts of things like putting these weird screws that you need these weird tools for, or and then putting these circuits that if you open the computer, it's only a Apple technician that can actually have your PC working again. Then you have things like iPhones and smartphones. I mean, come on, today's smartphones and everything are impossible to repair for the most part. So we get to a point where, okay, I get it that if I paid $50 for something, I'm not going to have it repaired. It goes with the price. But you start having iPhones and Android phones and, all over you want. And they're not only expensive things that are almost impossible to repair. They even tell you, oh, we don't want you to open it and do something with it. And they make it hard for that to happen. And that I don't agree. What happens with smartphones is the number one repair is the screen. People crash their screens all the time. But when you actually go to a point where you're telling everybody, well, we put a sensor that if you fix your phone anywhere else from an Apple or whatever company distributor, their phone is not going to work anymore. That's where I think these people should pay fines for doing that. And a right to repair is definitely a right. The device, I will even go further. You buy a radio, that radio is yours. You buy an iPhone, it's not Apple's device anymore. It's yours. You paid it with your money. It is your device. You do what you want with it, not what the company wants you to do with it. That is a very different thing. In terms of software and updates and stuff, yes, you get that control from the company. It's the way it works. In terms of the hardware, the physical device, you paid it, it's in your hand. Don't tell me who or how it's going to be repaired. Now this is my turn now. It's like if in the 80s or 70s you would buy a Kenwood, an ICOM receiver, or whatever big brand, Panasonic, and they tell you that, oh, the only place you can have it repaired is at a Panasonic center or a Kenwood center. No. Back then, if you had good repair places, everybody was able to repair everybody else's device. It was just a question of getting the parts and whatever you need to repair it. Once you purchase a device, for me, that device is yours now. The hardware, the chips inside it, you own it. It's yours. You shouldn't be told that only that place can fix it. And you shouldn't be told, well, no, don't fix it yourself. It's not going to work. You need to have specialized tools. I don't agree with that. And so that's where I agree with right to repair. Because especially for these things, smartphones, if you buy a higher end ones, you paid more than $1,000 for it. I'm sorry, but if you have a local repair shop that says, I'm going to change your screen and change that and fix it, fix the charging port that doesn't work, for $150. Well, it's a more than $1,000 radio. I think that's a good deal. Not radio, but phone. It's a good deal. $150 for something that's more than 1,000. I'm going to have it fixed. But then you get, oh, well, I can't fix it because only that place can fix it. No, sorry. It doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. So right to repair, yes, absolutely. The PTBRSTG, is there anywhere I can receive Voice of America or BBC Radio? Where are you located? Because there's tons of frequencies that make it across a lot of in North America and Europe. Richard Califano used to say to people, I'm not a dentist, so would you let me pull your tooth? And they would look for a cheap price. David, I've done an mounted fixes myself. i5 mini systems and so on. Speaker audio started cutting out. Turns out it was a case of cracked solder joints. I reflowed the joints and with fresh solder and been strong ever since. Yep. Take care, Dwayne. Nice to have you on board, as usual. There won't be. That's a big joke. It's a big lie when governments say there's going to be China sanctions. You know what? Those China sanctions are going to be so minimal that, yes, they will hike the price of stuff. You cannot do serious China sanctions. I'm sorry. Everything's made there. You want to have nothing and pay twice the price? It ain't going to happen. Stop thinking this can happen. China manufacturing is so huge that it cannot happen. It cannot happen. We're just going to sit down on our ass and do nothing because we decided China makes everything. Let's deal with it. And that's the way it is. And anybody that says, well, here are the sanctions. Yep, you and me are paying. In every darn sanctions that we do against China, you and me are paying. Or we're the clowns in here. So stop thinking that there's something we can do. Nothing we can do now. It's too late. Okay? We let it happen like that. We let other countries build everything. Well, deal with it. It's the way it is. I've been driving my speaker too long. That's why the fire is. Yes, David. Absolutely. Oh, man. D Blasty 777 KC1 PSK, nice to have you here from Connecticut. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's software, definitely. Oh, man. What else do we have? Tony, when I was looking at computer repairs 20 years ago, the biggest money spinner was replacing modems and PCs after a night of thunderstorms. Yeah, those were things that absolutely happened. Yeah, absolutely. Take care, Richard. V3 JPX. Oh, yeah. And it's intentional. They make it impossible to fix stuff. And there are other companies that actually do. And Vermont, well, you had 11680 that was coming in decently a little earlier that you could have had in the morning, 15730, I think they are. 6195 past 1 a.m. if you're a late nighter. 15400 often comes in the afternoon also. There's quite a few. Voice of America 15580 is almost daily. There's quite a few frequencies. You have to look at the schedules and see what's out there. 6080 Voice of America at night around in Vermont, so you're in the same time zone as I am. Around 10, 11 p.m. 6080 comes in really well. Hey, Blind Picker, nice to have you here, Rob, in Connecticut, W0RAB. Winnow Gronek, repeat Morse code on 8425. Yeah, it's 8424, which is, I believe, 8424, I think it's TAH in Turkey, which is a marine channel marker. There's SVO and there's TAH in the range there, which are marine channel markers. Yeah, that's also the other thing, Daniel. It does a reduction of e-waste, definitely. Alembic 65 at first saw the attitude of cell phone corporations that they were first coming out. One of the main reasons I never owned one today. So, take care, Mike Drager. Nice to have you on board. Just Radio Check got a cheap 250 Android phone. Works as good as any Apple. But, it's not just an Apple thing. It's also a most cell phone makers, most like Samsung and so on, it's just a lot of the fixing is almost impossible. George, nice to have you on board from Scotland. Chastang, happy with Android phones. I think that choice is more of a personal thing, but even those companies, Samsung, LG, and so on, they're not helping out much in having our stuff fixed. Also, I think it's everybody's responsible. It's not just an Apple thing. Apple goes beyond maybe its ways to for a lot of things, but still, it's a general thing, much more in the fixing, for sure. So I'm going to say goodbye for tonight. We've been on for 2 hours and 53 minutes. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Different things, different subjects, repairing stuff, repairing radios, which is a tough one, and overall having fun. Hope that you found the show cool. We'll be back on Wednesday with another show at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's 0 hours UTC Thursday for most of the people. And it's always nice to have you guys on board all the time. Lone Wolf Ottawa, take care. VA3 BNS. Jazz Tank, sorry for that. It's nice to have you here. Thanks for being here. And don't forget, just before we leave, for those that are still here, we have the X test tonight. Okay? You guys like to try AM DXing on the AM band, the medium wave band tonight, courtesy of the program committee. of the International Radio Club and the National Radio Club. There's going to be a dual test of 2 AM stations. That's coming from 04 to 06, 04 to 06 UTC. That's midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We will have station WWKY 990 in Winchester, Kentucky, and WMST on 1150 kilohertz in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, conducting maintenance tests for 2 hours, 04 to 06 UTC, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. They will consist of sweep tones, Morse code at 20 words and 12 words per minute, long tones, sound effects, and also vintage jingles. So if you want to do some medium wave AM DXing tonight here in North America, I will be doing and I will be checking for these stations later tonight. So 2 stations. They're not very powerful, so that's going to be a challenge. 2,500 watts for WMST and 350 watts only for WWKY. So I'll have 2 radios running with these stations tonight starting at midnight because I want to try to get that. And of course, I'll make videos. If I hear them, I'll make videos and I'll post them on the channel. So 04 to 06 UT tonight, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Remember, 990 kilohertz WWKY in Winchester, Kentucky, and 1150 kilohertz WMST, Mount Sterling, Kentucky, conducting tests for 2 hours. The easiest is, of course, getting the Morse codes and the tones throughout the static of any other station you might have on these frequencies. So take care, everybody. Stay safe. Turn on the radio, have fun, and just, tune around. And of course, I'll be listening to the radio later today. Now I'm going to have some, what am I eating? Oh, I'm eating some grilled salmon with salad. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and see you Wednesday or next Saturday for the other live show. Bye, everyone.